winning the heart of your audience is fair the brand love. I'll try as much as possible to make it as concise, but that doesn't take anything away from what we hope to get out of the session. I'll be using examples to buttress my point such that all of us on the call are able to relate with whatever it is I'll be sharing. And I believe at the end of the session, I have better opportunity to expatiate further on some things I must have mentioned during the course of the question and answer session. So I'll just get right started. Our outline is very, very simple. Basically 3 segments. The first part is for us to look at what a brand is not and what a brand is. For us to be able to build a brand, we should be able to identify what we can call a brand and what is not a brand. And right after that, we'll move into what brand building is, and then look at a few easy steps to follow to build a brand that people love. And right after that, we'll take a few questions, and then we'll close the session. Right. So I'll start with this question, and you can just probably leave your comments in the chat very quickly. What's your favorite fufu brand? And if you don't eat fufu, if you don't like fufu, what's your favorite Gary brand? You can just start responding this session. Oh, I hope I'm audible now. I just read that. Okay. So, Yellow Gary. Okay, Yellow Gary, is there any particular brand? Is there a name of the brand that produces the Yellow Gary? Or is just the Yellow Gary? I would like to have as many responses as possible. Your favorite fufu brand, your favorite Gary brand. That, oh, this is the brand I buy anytime I go to the market, or anytime I need it, this is the brand I buy. Jebu Gary, okay? Any other response? Okay. Thanks for the responses. Someone said the Yellow Gary, someone said the Jebu Gary, right? So yes, Gary, okay. Gary, I hope I pronounced that right. Anyway, from the question we got, it shows that at best, people are Mama Nungu Fufu. Someone is bringing it up now. So that's what I was looking for, right? That person that you normally go to, or maybe a brand you normally go back to buy the same item, the Gary or the Fufu. So the first few responses, the Yellow Gary and the Gary, these are quite generic Gary. It's just, okay, Gary that is probably made in a kind of way, the Yellow Gary, a bit of palm oil into it to give that coloration. And then the Jebu Gary, of course, from a particular region, right? That's a brand on its own. The Jebu Gary is a brand on its own because people probably associate it to be, okay, the crunchy type of Gary, sour, the best to drink and all. The person who mentioned Mama Nungu Fufu, it means, okay, there's a particular woman who supplies the fufu and he or she is very, very certain, okay, we get the best from them. And that, in essence, is what a brand is. So I'll move to the next slide, which is what a brand is not, right? So a brand is not a logo. For those of us that have businesses or that are hoping to have our businesses, your brand is not just a logo that is designed by whoever it is you've assigned the task. A brand is not the identity or the brand guide the designer develops and pass on to you to say, oh, if you want to do this is the color you should use. If you want to do that, this is how to go about it. A brand is not even the product. So for the Gary, for the fufu, that's not the brand, right? You've mentioned Yellow Gary, you've mentioned the fufu from the mama, you've mentioned Gary from Ikari or whatever it is. right? But the product in itself is not the brand. And for individuals, of course, brand, product, services, you also have personal brands, right? Politicians, public figures, they are brands on their own. And the brand in itself is not that person, is not that famous politician, is not that popular person, is not that celebrity, right? So if all these are not the brand, then what exactly is a brand, right? Um, a brand is that gut feeling, is that way you feel when you come across that product, when you come across that service or the organization or another person, right? At the mention of a particular person, some of us on the call will smile, right? The reason why you smiled is because immediately you heard that name, it brought about a kind of feeling to you, right? You hear another person's name and you hiss, right? Why did you hiss? You hiss because that name brought a kind of memory and a kind of feeling along with it. And that is exactly what a brand is, right? So a brand is the sum total of your feeling about that product, your feeling about that service, about the organization, about that person, right? And that feeling is as a result of the memories associated with that person, with that product, with the service over time. Is some sort of trust you have. So most of us, or virtually all of us, belong to one WhatsApp group or another. And wake up in the morning and you check the WhatsApp group. There are some persons that once you see their name associated with a message or with a post in that group, there is a thought that comes to your mind. You either trust the information or you are like, oh, this person is here again with a fake news, right? So the trust the person has built over time is the person's brand. So a product like the fufu, the gari, the feeling, you looking forward to, putting the gari in a bowl with some ice and all, and the feeling you're looking forward to when you're about to have the food or the gari or whatever it is, that is the brand of that product, right? And of course, it's a sum total of all the things you've experienced with the brand over time, right? And the most critical part of what a brand is, at least if you don't take anything away, please remember the words on this slide. A brand is not what we say it is. So if I have a business, my personality, if I have a product I've developed and I'm selling, it is not what I've described it to be. That is not what the brand is. It is actually what the people who consume that product, who buy it from me, who associate with me, it is what they say it is, right? So the power is not in my hand to define what my brand is. The power is actually in the hands of those who use the product, who use the service, who encounter me on a regular basis and form their opinion. Whatever opinion they formed about me or the service of my company is what that brand is. Now, it begs the question, if people are the ones who would define what my brand is, so, what am I to do? How am I supposed to build a brand? The power is not in my hand anyways. Someone else is defining what the brand is, right? Now, that takes us to what brand building is. In a nutshell, brand building is an attempt to plant an idea into the minds of your audience. So I have this product. I found a supplier from Ijebu who supplies the best of gari, right? And I want to start selling the gari to people. Whatever it is I want them to feel about the gari I'm selling to them, I want to start planting it into their minds in subtle ways, in different form, such that over time, they start to think about that in the exact way I want them to think about it. And, oh yes, it's me that made that decision. I've formed this opinion independent of the person who is selling to me. That is brand building. For those that are very familiar with movies, there's this movie called Inception, and it's pretty much what we're trying to do. Inception is all about some guys who try to hack into the minds of people, and they plant an idea in the mind of the person. into the person's thoughts in some way. So brand building is somewhat, or all your actions, your inactions, all the things you do that pass on some kind of message or experience to the other person such that that person starts to form an opinion about you, right, is brand building. And definitely it can be the power to tweak or to shape the mindset of the audience you're talking to, shape the mindset of the people you're selling to shape the mindset of the people you're relating with, such that they start to say those things about you the exact way you want them to say. So getting started, one, we've identified what a brand is not. It's not the logo, it's not the product itself, it's not the brand identity. A brand is the sum total of the feeling anybody has about a product or a service, how you describe it, how you feel whenever you come across the logo, how you feel when you open the bag, how you feel when you step into that office, how you feel when you're about to meet that person. That's what a brand is. So how do we go about building brands in few easy steps? I think 5 or 6 steps, right? The first thing I would like us to bear in mind is that nobody cares about your business. Nobody cares about the business you are into. Nobody really cares about the new product you've identified that you plan to sell. What they care about is the benefit of that business you're bringing to them. What they care about is the benefit of that product you are introducing to them. What they care about is the benefit of associating with you. It's sort of selfish, but is the truth. Most people don't care about your business, they care about the benefits of your business. And in essence, the first step to building a brand that people love is to start with why, right? What do I mean by this? The first step is to start with why. The first step is to ensure that whatever it is you're offering your audience is relevant to them and it fits their needs, right? If you're able to ask those questions why, and you have answers that are valid, that if you provide that answer, if you share the answer with 5, 10 of your target audience, they'll say, yes, this is me, right? Then you are, on your way to something great, right? Start with why. Why am I doing this? Am I doing this because, I just learned, I can make quick money from it? Or am I doing it because a lot of people are looking for someone who can do it the way I plan to do it? And if I do it and they come across it, they will always be happy to come back again. Why is my business so unique? So I'm going into fashion, or I want to start selling Gary. Why should anybody care about my own Gary and not the same Gary they buy from Mile 12 or any other local market, right? Why should they choose mine over the next guy? Why should they choose my own product, my own company, my own service over the other people rendering the same service? Why have I chosen this target audience? I want to be selling to people who live in Kano, or I want to be selling to people in diaspora. Why am I not selling to Nigerians? Is it because people in diaspora, because they are far away from home, they miss home and they want to have a feel of home, they would appreciate it more, or any other reason? So you're asking the why. Why am I selling cheap or expensive? Why have I positioned myself as my own price to be more expensive than the average price? Is it because I want them to have a feeling that this is more original than the others, right? So in the process of asking the questions, asking why, all the answers you get at the end of the day must be true, especially as it relates to the audience you're trying to sell to. If all those answers are true and they can agree to it, then it means whatever it is you're offering is relevant to them and it fits that purpose, right? I started the session with the question, what's your favorite Gary brand or fufu brand, right? And most of us just mentioned Gary from a particular locality, not necessarily a brand name or a company that produces that Gary or that brings that Gary, which goes to show that none of us over time feeling towards any company or towards any shop in the Gary. Right. The picture on the screen went all across the social media in the last couple of days. I think earlier this week or late last week, and all sorts of reaction. Oh, we are in soup. This country is just this, is that. The Chinese are producing the Gary now and this and that, right? The reactions valid, however, they are funny. And I'll tell you why. Down the line, in the next 6 months, in the next 1 year, if the product you see on your screen is consistent and is able to deliver to the people who need Gary and is able to fulfill their needs, all the while, all the things that those people buying Gary are looking for, you will find the same products they complain about on their shelf in their kitchen. And why? It's because the product perhaps has been able to deliver something that is relevant to the audience that felt they didn't need it before and is packaged in a way that it fits their lifestyle. Most of us are looking for something neatly packed. Most of us are looking for something I can just pick up the shelf, not necessarily saying, okay, give me 2 Congo or this or that. The measurement is somewhat standardized, and to a great extent, I'm hoping that, okay, I can get something consistent, right? Not like I buy the Gary today. Yes, I like the crunchy taste, and then the next batch I buy is not as crunchy. I want something consistent. I want something I can rely on. I want something that easily, I mean, the hygiene and all those things, right? That might be the reason why I switched from the mama that has always supplied me Gary the last 5 years and then switched to this. And that's because these people have asked why, and they've been able to provide answers to the why. Right. It's also important to note that when you consider that the number one reason people write about brand is to share experience, then you know that if you aren't good enough, you won't last in the game. What I mean by this is, to a great extent, people will only talk about you if you've done something that at least stands you out, whether good or bad. Some people complain, while some others, they would, encourage you and say, oh yes, I had a fantastic experience. This is this, I mean, they would give you all the accolades that you deserve. And that is the essence, or that's one of the reasons why we build our brand, right? So the images on the screen, we all are Nigerians and we can relate to the images on the screen. We've seen either one or more or all of these stickers on cars. And I want to believe we also know the reason why people put these stickers on their cars, right? It's very, very simple. It's to help them answer the question on the screen, right? To a great extent, anybody who has put that sticker on the car has not put the sticker there just for fun or because, I am hiding something. But, well, some people use it to probably cover a cracked screen and all. However, the major reason why most people put the stickers on their cars is to be able to introduce themselves long before you are asking that question, right? It's either, if you find someone putting a military sticker on the car, it's either they want to create some fear such that you as another road user, at least you give them some kind of respect, or it reduces the number of stops they get by the police or something. For religious bodies, what you do is put it on your car such that if another person who belongs to that same group sees you, at least somehow they are able to identify with you, sympathize, or at least allow you some kind of passage, right? It's the same thing with building brand. To a great extent, what those stickers have done is to introduce those people such that we start to form an opinion about them long before we even have a word with them. And it's the same thing for us as business. It is important to be clear about your product, personality, business And what I mean by this is people should be able to describe your business brand as if it is a human being by virtue of some of the things you do and the way you do them. And when you define this personality, it informs all other parts of your brand as you build it, because it's the personality that will tell the kind of things that you do, right? Um, the question I like to encourage most people starting off a business or who are in business already and trying to define the personality of the brand is to ask yourself some few questions. And you ask those questions assuming your business is actually a human being. Don't see your business or your product as just something in a carton or something in a park or just an office somewhere. Imagine for a second that that business, that product, or that human is a human being operating in another level, right? So the question you will ask yourself is, okay, if this product were to be human, would it be a man or a woman? Would it be a boy or a girl? How would it dress? Very flamboyant or very conservative? If my business were to be human, or if my product were to be human, would it live on the island or would it live on the mainland? And those questions, the answers you start to provide define the kind of personality you're imagining for your product. If this business were to be, would it be an introvert or an extrovert? Would it talk so much or say very little? And that's all. Would this brand be reserved when it gets to a place, it's just chill, or is domineering, it wants everybody to know that I have arrived? How would my customer react to those characters used to describe my business, right? Because all of the things you're doing it because of the customers you're hoping to sell to. So by the time you finish with the character you built for your business, for your product, or for your service, right? You should be able to ask that, okay, the people I'm trying to sell to they're on this side. This is the character I've built for my business. If these two should meet, what would be the reaction? Would they get along easily? Or would they be irritated by the kind of character or the kind of personality my business has? And in answering those questions, you know if you've defined a befitting personality for your business, or if there are things that you need to tweak such that it aligns with the expectations of your customer. There's this 3-word game we use in my office, and especially when we're trying to help a business build a brand. And what we do is we tell the customer or we tell the clients, okay, don't think too deep, get a pen and a paper and write down 3 unrelated adjectives that best describe your brand personality. Right. Don't think too deep. Don't be very, very picky. Don't try to justify in your head before you write it down. Spontaneously, a pen and a paper, just write down, okay, 3 unrelated adjectives, 3 unrelated words that best describe my brand. Oh, I'm helpful, jovial, and honest. Or, I'm stern, professional, and cordial. Or, I'm rebellious, I'm an adventurous person, and all. So by the time you put these 3 words together and then connect it back to the questions you've asked about your business, you start to see a clearer picture as to the kind of personality your business possess, and then to see if that personality is the right kind of personality for the audience you're trying to talk to. Of course, there's a deeper level to defining the brand personality, and quite often you find out that for you to do those things that I have on the screen, most times you require some professional support or some professional advisory. Speak with the experts that have been doing it over time and they know what to look out for, and they have reasons why they've chosen some kind of personality for you, or they have reasons why they will tell you not to go that route. One of them is the brand archetype. The brand archetype is some sort of characterization that defines your business role or your product, the role of your the role of your business or the role of your product in the life of your audience. Some professionals have listed about 12 brand archetypes, and of course, you have them on the screen, from being a hero to a magician to a sage and all. And for most businesses or for most brands, they end up with either one or a combination of two of those archetypes. And that informs what they do and how they do that, right? The next one is brand proposition. This is more like your manifesto. This is like your promise to your customers to say, oh, for us in my office, or this product promises to do X, Y, Z. This product promises to do A, B, C for anybody who uses it, right? The third one is brand positioning, which is more of you choosing a space within the industry or within the segment you play. I use football as an example for those of us that love football and follow football, right? Before any match, the coaches have their team tactics, they have their pep talk in the locker room. And depending on the kind of opposition the team they are playing against, they will choose a tactic that they believe is best suited for them such that they are able to win that match, right? When they get on the field of play, sometimes the tactics they've, devised doesn't really work. It's not giving them the solution they are looking for, and they rejig it. They move around those things. It's the same with brand building, right? For every brand, you need to identify a position that gives you the best advantage, especially as it relates to other people playing in that field, right? As a player as well as a striker, for very, very great strikers, they look for positions within the 18-yard box of the opponent because they're looking for the place that is best suited for them. When they get the ball, they're able to kick it into the net and achieve their goal. So it's the same thing for brand building. Like I said, for these things I've listed on the screen, some of them, for depending on the level of involved, some of them start to, define the positioning, define the proposition, and possibly choose an archetype that guides your actions or inactions. For some others, you might require professional support or professional advice. The third thing that helps in building a brand that people love is to have a good name, right? And that popular saying goes, a good name is better than riches, right? A strong brand is easily recognizable, obviously, and recognition starts with a name. For most of the people you've met in your life, you've connected the face to a particular name. If you know the name, at best you are describing, and if you need to describe to a third party, you describe. If the description is bringing images of more than one person in the mind of the person you're describing to, then it becomes difficult to even know who you're talking about. And it's the same thing with brands. The name is important because this is something that goes on all possible touch points, from your card to the product package to website to your social media page, receipts, invoices, and all things with your customers. They will always before the network locked me out earlier. So it's very, very important for us to choose a good name for our business. Now it begs the question, what is a good name? What is a bad name? There's no one size fits all. It depends on the kind of business you're doing. It depends on the kind of people you're targeting. It depends on a lot of factors. It depends on the kind of personality you define for your business. There are some names that resonate well with kind of character or the personality you define for a business. And then when you move that name elsewhere, perhaps to another industry or to a particular locality, then it becomes a problem because the name brings or is associated with something bad or something that most people don't want to touch, right? So it's a question of, okay, do we call it akara or do we call it bean cake? It depends on the audience you're targeting. It depends on some other factors around you. Perhaps if you call it akara, it triggers some kind of conversation to say, okay, what is akara? I've never heard of that before. And you're able to tell people to say, oh, these are made from beans, and tell them the process and all. It's one of those interesting things to note when you are choosing a name for your business. Sometimes people choose a name such that for every time you hear that name, you are just forced to ask the question, okay, what is this about? Or this sounds interesting, or what's the meaning, right? It's the same thing with Gary or cassava flakes. For anybody who's called it cassava flakes, perhaps it's because it helps people to understand what it is all about and then get them curious enough to buy it. If that's the rationale, then cassava flakes would be a good name. For some other people, they feel, oh yes, because an Italian will call pizza bread or dough with some toppings or something like that. They'll call it pizza. You too should call it Gary. I mean, we can have those arguments back and forth. But my own opinion is the name you choose for your business should serve some purposes. And one of such is a very good recall to know, okay, oh, I've had that name before, is distinct enough, and it brings some positive association anytime they hear about it. Right. The last two names down the screen, the Cadabra and Relentless, are some of the early names considered by one of the giants as far as business is concerned today. Amazon started, and at the start of Amazon, they considered a couple of names. And one of those names is Cadabra, from Abracadabra. They felt, okay, we want to build a company that serves people and it feels like magic. And of course, one of their legal consultants kicked against this to say it feels obscure, and argument back and forth. They dropped that. They chose Relentless. They also dropped that. And today they chose Amazon. Who knows, perhaps if they've chosen Cadabra, it would have affected the business either positive or negative. You can never tell until you're there. And sometimes choosing a name, it doesn't just stop there. It's also a function of other factors that are coming to play as far as the brand you're building is concerned. Right. In summary, when choosing a name, a few things I can be sure to at least advise on is it should be a name that is legal. In the clime you're playing, your business operates or the product is going to be distributed. And it's also good to keep it simple such that people are able to spell correctly. There are no spelling errors. If you are going to have a website, the name itself is something people can type in easily and then they're not typing wrongly. Maybe, oh, is it double N or is it M before N and all those kind of things. You should also choose a name that is scalable. So names are only fit for a particular region. And for you that is trying to build a business that is open, expanding to other markets, maybe international markets, then you need to start considering names that are scalable. We find this in some automobiles. A particular brand, a particular model of a brand, they will name it something in, say, the US market. And then when they get to other markets, they name it another thing. Perhaps because locally, that name that is approved in the US means something negative in other clients. So these are some of the considerations you should have when choosing a name for your business. Another thing is not to copy your competitors and also to avoid obscurity, something that, oh, what exactly does it mean? Does it mean this or does it mean that? Right. I mentioned something earlier that Amazon started with Relentless and Cadabra. And as at the time they started, they just went ahead to register all the domains for all the names they were considering. They considered awake.com, browse.com. Until date, they still keep this URL. If you type relentless.com or awake.com or browse.com, it will lead you to Amazon because, of course, they bought it, is their property. And they've done something that is also smart, which is to keep these names and it adds to the brand story. Is the reason why I mentioned it now because I thought it's quite interesting to still keep those names. I mean, for some other people, they will have thrown it out to say, okay, why are we wasting money to keep the domains? They kept it, and what they did is, okay, for every time we type awake.com or browse.com or relentless, it links back to them. If they have not done this, what it means is if they are telling their story to say, oh, we started with Awake or we left it and we thought of naming our company Relentless, people search Relentless and then someone else asks relentless.com. It might be the reason why I wanted to shop on Amazon and then I got distracted. I landed on relentless.com and that is a business loss. So those are some of the things we should also consider when having a business name and building a brand generally. On the screen, I have a couple of icons, though not fully, not in full form. However, for some of us, we are able to name virtually all the brands that we have there. And that's because they've designed for them an icon that is strong enough that you can recall, even if it is distorted. And that is one of the essence of a good identity, a good logo for your business, a good icon, a good shape, or a good symbol, emblem for your business as it is. And the reason why it's important is, of course, they say don't judge a book by its cover, but I can bet you that every human has a prejudice. We have our own biases. You see something from a distance and then you make up your mind that, oh, this thing, I don't think it would be nice. Or this, oh, this should look nice just by virtue of what you've seen, maybe an icon they've used or the color they've used, right? A good logo builds trust, no doubt about it. A strong logo helps you pull together all the elements of the brand building that you're doing. It's good enough to have a recognizable name, but people commonly associate brands with their logo. If the logo is not properly done, they also have some kind of feeling about your business, and it is very, very critical to do that, right? So in the process of designing a logo, some of the things to put into consideration would be the brand personality. If you have a kind of personality that is very vibrant, very outspoken and all, then you want to design a logo that is complementary to that, that works with the kind of brand personality you have. The kind of audience you're also speaking to, if you're working with children, if your product is targeted at children, then whatever it is you're doing should be relevant to the audience. For instance, if I'm working with children, I wouldn't use colors that are very dark or colors that are not attractive. There's a reason why when you attend a party or when you're organizing a party for children, if you have maybe a crate of soda, a crate of soft drink, say a crate of product from Coca-Cola. If you have 12 Fanta bottles, 12 Coca-Cola bottles, the chances are that the Fanta bottles will get off the crate before the Coca-Cola finishes. There's a reason for that. The children are always, attracted to colorful things. It's the reason why they'll pick jollof rice over, say, white rice. It's the reason why some of them will pick fried rice over jollof rice. Why? Because fried rice has the yellows, the browns, the greens, and all those things going on in there. It's the same thing for adults, for humans generally. We're attracted to some kind of colors, we're attracted to some kind of shapes and all. And when designing a logo for your business, it is important to consider all these things. Of course, we have different tools today. You don't necessarily need to work with a professional to design a logo. There are some tools online. You put together some icons and then you have a logo. However, I need to point out that quite often what you find is, okay, it's the same space you've gone to do your logo for free that another person has gone to. The chances are very high that, okay, you find another business with a logo that is similar to yours. There isn't anything that really distincts you. And of course, my recommendation is always that, of course, if it's a small business, you can't afford to speak with professionals, do as much as you can. And as your business evolves, as your business grows, you start to take seriously the brand identity such that you need to work with professionals that can advise and that can help you develop something that would stand the test of time and also differentiate you from your competition. It's also good to have a brand style guide. And the brand style guide is what is like a document that captures all the things that the brand identity would follow. So for instance, if you have a logo and you are hoping to have multiple stores, your brand style guide will tell, okay, all the shop must be built in this way and all. For instance, if you notice for brands, for fuel stations that have taken their brand seriously, if you drive into any fuel station, maybe Total or AP or any of those fuel stations, you find out that they always have a similar structure, right? And it's because the brand guide has stated that, okay, this is how our shops would look like. There are some other brands that have also gone the reverse. In their brand guide, what they've said is our logo will remain the same. However, all our building structures will be different. So if you go to this brand, this building will be different. We'll make it look very nice, but different. However, the logo is distinct and it becomes a pattern over time. And the reason why it's important to have a brand style guide is that in the long run, it helps you to build a strong recall. People remember your brand easily because they've seen it before. And because of that consistency, they're able to remember that, oh, that is from that brand. If I tear some part of an advert and you see just some part of a logo, you recognize it because over time, they've helped you to associate all those lines, the colors with the brand. If you see yellow today in Nigeria, you probably think of a business or a brand before you think of other brands. That's because over time, they've built it so well that it helped them to build a strong recall. It also helps with ease of association and strong equity for your brand. Equity just means that the value your business commands by virtue of what people think about it is the reason why someone will buy a jersey of a player and not buy another jersey, because they've associated that player's name and number to mean something. And of course, there's some sort of value added to that. So that's the fourth thing. On the screen, I have 3 different personalities, and there's something common with all of them. These pictures were taken at different times. However, for all the 3 of them, there was something that kept coming back. The look pretty much feels the same over years. Some of those pictures are probably pictures taken within, say, 10, 20, 30 years, and it remained the same. Bottom left corner is Fidel Castro, and I mean, you can see a picture of a young Fidel Castro, same way dressed, and maybe 10, 20, 30 years after, still kept that same look. Okonjo-Iweala is known with the gele. Anywhere you find her, you know, okay, the gele is iconic. And, you know, sometimes these things are not told. However, like I said before, a brand is not what an individual says it is. It is what other people say it is. Okonjo-Iweala's gele is so consistent that when she became the WTO lead, there was some sort of funny campaign that, okay, women should, tie their gele and all just to celebrate her, to support her. And bottom line is that consistency is very, very key. You must deliver as a brand, and you must deliver again and again and again, right? That leads to consistency. And it is one of the easiest ways to be memorable, right? Some of those things that you do are very, very simple, very ordinary, but because you did it consistently, right, it becomes a brand. There's a popular, a public figure that consistently wore a white buba and shokoto over the years that it became his own signature. You also have politicians that have icon on their cap or the way they dress over time. Of course, Oshiomhole comes to mind with his safari jacket. You have tons of examples like that. And brands too is the same. You continue to do the same thing over and over again that people associate it. People now know, okay, oh, if I see this, it's coming from this person. If I make the sound, pa, 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 I'm not mentioning a brand, but as I was doing that sound, I can bet that in your head, a brand came to your mind. That's the power of consistency. And for you, it's one of the easiest way to build a brand because, of course, it's one of the easiest way for people to remember you. And if you're consistent, what it also does for you is it helps with brand recognition. So if you have 10 stores and all your stores are painted in a particular way with particular color pattern, people know it. Even if I'm driving by, I'm like, oh, when did they open another branch in my area? Because I've used that color consistency to recognize the brand. It also creates brand awareness. Again, if I use an example, maybe there's an outlet in Surulere and then we open another outlet in Aja, and we have not even advertised that we are now in Aja. But for someone who is used to the way we painted our store in Surulere, if he drives by in Aja, there's that awareness to say, wow, oh, these guys are new here. I didn't know they now have a shop here. You've created an awareness. You've not done any advert. You've not spent any money. And you've been able to create that awareness. It also helps you bring a brand equity. I mentioned equity earlier. And in simple terms, I'll use football, for example. Cristiano Ronaldo moved from Real Madrid at over 30 or thereabouts, and he still moved at a very, very high price. At that price, some other players wouldn't even move for that price, even at their prime. Why did Cristiano Ronaldo move and Juventus was willing to pay that high? It's because of the brand equity. And it's not just brand equity built just on the field of play. No, it's brand equity built over time, on and off the field. Cristiano Ronaldo, Messi, and some other guys, they have a very high following because of the consistency, right? And there's a value associated with the name CR7, such that some business people would pay franchise, they pay money or royalty to a Ronaldo just to use his name to build a business that is not even the owner. If I choose tomorrow, I can decide, okay, I want to build a supermarket and I call it CR7. Because CR7 has a lot of followership around, people will go into that store just to buy because it's CR7. And that's the power of brand equity. And consistency help you do that. Loyalty and trust. If someone is not consistent, you won't trust the person. It's as simple as, oh, let's meet at 2 p.m. tomorrow, and the person didn't show up until 3 p.m., right? You schedule another meeting, let's meet at 10 a.m., the person show up at 11. There's no way you would trust that person to meet up on the next appointment because that person has consistently shown up at the meetings very late. So the feeling you associate with that person, which has become that person's brand, is, oh, it comes late to the meeting. And it affects loyalty, it affects level of trust. Agility is another thing. For brands that are consistent, it means easily they can change things and it won't affect so much. For instance, you have businesses that change location and that's the end of that business because they are not able to move their audience from the old location to the new location. And that's perhaps because the brand equity is very low. Brand recognition is also low. So people wouldn't even know that something has happened. However, if, for instance, tomorrow you see President Buhari in tie and suit, he's likely going to make news, right? Perhaps because we're used to seeing him with Agbada and his cap, and that consistency is now being used in reverse, such that, okay, I want to just make people recognize something. Maybe he has an announcement and he doesn't want people to miss it. And it does something contrary to his consistent manner. That in itself could be a trick that our brand used to build followership or to build love in the minds of those that they are trying to reach out to. So being consistent, there are a few things that you can follow that help you be consistent. The first thing is to create and use your brand guidelines. Because we are human, we tend to forget things. So it's always good to have some sort of manual, some sort of guide that you go back to every now and then to ensure that, okay, yes, I'm still doing what I promised to do. Make the brand guideline accessible to those who need it, especially for those of us who run business and we've hired people to do it. So, for instance, if you have someone you've put in your store and you wish that every time a customer comes in, you must greet them in 3 languages. If that is what you have in your mind and you've not made that guideline available to those that are supposed to welcome your customers, the chances are that they don't put that into practice. So as you have a brand and as you create and use your brand guideline, it's also important to make it accessible to those that would, make use of it. It's very, very critical. Your printers, your service providers, some businesses have failed because the printer used a wrong logo or bastardized the logo, used a different color, and then the brand is inconsistent. Align your touch point with the brand personality. So it means if our personality is the very calm type, then all our touch points should be calm as well. If our personality is the very vocal type, all our touch points should be very vocal. You need to make periodic check for your brand assessment. And if there's anything that you feel you should review, of course, make sure you review and update accordingly. It's the reason why some brands will change their logo after 10, 20, after 50 years, because they feel, okay, we need to rejig this thing. I give an instance. We had an opportunity to work on the brand refresh for the Lagos Chamber of Commerce. And when we got the brief, it was shocking to me because this is an entity that has been around for over 130 years. And for some reason, okay, they felt the need to refresh in itself. And of course, by the time we sat together and agreed on how best to go about it, considering the heritage of the brand and all, we're able to at least do something that is meaningful, that resonates with the stakeholders, and that also projects the brand in the light of what they have for the future. And it's also very important for us to do that constantly. For us, for those that have businesses, it doesn't mean for those of us that have businesses, it doesn't mean we should not refresh our business from time to time. Sorry, 1 second. Okay. Okay, sorry about that. I just learned that my screen was in presenter mode. So the last thing on my slide is the fact that you need to show your workings. You need to share the journey and show the progress to your audience. Most of us, we just come to our customers and then show them, oh, abracadabra, this is how we came about it. However, to build a brand that people love, you need to share the journey, show the progress of your business, share the behind the story, share the behind the scene, share how you arrived at that spot, right? The pictures you see on the screen is a way brand tells stories that make them endearing to their audience. If someone shows you this bottle of Coca-Cola and tells you, oh, that's the first bottle of Coca-Cola, and then we arrived here, and then here we are. We love to hear those stories. And for us too, as business owners, as business promoters, it's very, very important to make use of this as well. Amazon story, this picture has been shared over and over again, how they started in a small office, one garage for Google and all. We also have our own stories too. The story of Alabukun, I've read it a couple of times. People shared it on Facebook, on WhatsApp and all. So it's good to share the journey. It's good to tell your own story. If you don't do, other people will tell those stories, and quite often they are stories that misrepresent us. Telling your story, you can show people how it started, take pictures of the first space you used for your business before it became big, the new product you are working on, what are the benefits, when it's going to be released, when should people expect it, your brand essence, where you saw some materials. Of course, if you're doing that, you also need to consider the fact that, okay, you have some trade secrets that you are not letting out. feedback on how it's helping you to improve. Of course, oh, we got the feedback from our customer and it helped us improve on our product. This is what we have seen now. Thank you so much. And all these are some of the things that you can do. Also to share the behind the scene, like I mentioned. So to recap, we spoke about what a brand is not. It's not what you say it is. It is what other people say it is. And brand building means you trying to put into the minds of the people what you want them to say about you. Some sort of hacking into their minds with all the things you do for them and how you relate with them. And we also looked at building a brand, have a relevant and fitting offering, define your personality is very critical because it's only when you know who you are that would help to identify other things that you do and how you do them. It's also critical to have a very good name and very important to have a good identity, a good logo, a good icon. Be consistent is one of the easiest ways to remain memorable and learn to tell your story. Thank you so much for listening. I guess we'll take questions. I don't know. I guess there are some questions that came up during the course of the presentation. So I hope I'm able to respond to them, and I hope I do not miss any. I'll just try and scroll through the chat now to see the questions that have been asked. Okay, so there's a question here. Does a name stick on one's head as a result of an experience with such products? If that happens, then a brand could also be a name. Coca-Cola is a brand. Gary is a general name for cassava noodles. Okay, thank you, Dr. Akimbola. Like I said, of course, different people have different school of thought. Some people think, okay, the name itself is a brand. Some other people think, okay, the name in itself is not a brand because if you strip that name and put it on another product, would it still carry the same feeling? Perhaps not. So their own argument, which I kind of align with, is the fact that the name wouldn't be that name if not for the experience associated with it. Gary Jebu wouldn't be Gary Jebu if it was just another Gary that, okay, is not memorable in some ways. So that's, but I mean, of course, there are no rigid, strict answers to this. Can a brand building be segmented? Sure, it can be segmented. I mean, you can't do all of this all at once. It depends on what you have the capacity to do, and you build at your own pace. But what's very, very important is even as a small business, you must have the end goal in mind. You must see the bigger picture. It's always difficult when you build a brand with just the small mindset of where you are today. If you're building a business and you hope someday that, okay, oh, we are going to go big such that we have 5, 6, 10 stores, then from start, it helps you to start putting in place structures that make it easier for you to manage the 10 stores when you get to that level. Hence, what it means is by the time you get big, those problems start to surface. It doesn't mean that's the end of the business. Perhaps by then you have much more resources to now engage professionals. They sit together with you to rearrange, to remodel the business, to rename and all. We've had instances where businesses that we've known for years, they change their name completely or they change their logo completely because they've identified that, okay, there's a gap between where they used to be and where they are now. So brand building sure can be segmented. However, those segments, we build it in such a way that it's like a Lego bricks. You know very well that, okay, yes, I have this little bricks, but by the time I put it together, I want to make a car or I want to make a building. That I think helps. I'm trying to see the next question. Okay, from Tajdin Alabede, how best can an entrepreneur achieve alignment between personal branding and corporate branding? Okay, that's a very critical one. It depends. For some persons, they bring in their own personal brand into the business because they feel it will help project the business itself. For some others, they differentiate their business from the brand. Yes, you know the business, but you don't know the person behind it. But if you are the type that you feel your business will benefit a lot from your personal brand, what needs to happen is your personal brand needs to align with the personality of the business, such that if you see the two together, you wouldn't say, oh, what are they doing together? This person is different from the business. And if the personalities align, what it means is if the business owner is found somewhere, whatever it is he does, help project the business in a good light. Not like, oh, you have a picture of the CEO of a business and it is all out there in the news and it starts to affect the business itself because it's run contrary to the values of the business. Personal brand, of course, there are a couple of things that you need to identify. So, okay, me as an individual that is associated with this business, okay, this is where I should dress. I want to be dressed, I want to be seen this way. I want to be someone who is very, very down to earth. It's the reason why politicians choose to eat by the roadside when it comes to election time. Because the personality of that man who is achieved, who has his house well far away from the masses, is not friendly, is not the type of personality that should be seen with. Okay, people who are ready to serve. So they are trying to compliment and then they start to eat by the roadside and wave at everybody and do all those things. So I hope that helps. I hope I've been able to answer all the questions. Thank you so much for the time. Thanks for joining. And I believe if you have any other questions or inquiry, the details of the school have been posted there. You can visit the website, you can call or send an email and your questions will be responded to. Thank you so much again for the time. And I hope it was worth all the efforts that you've put into to join us today. All right. I hope I've answered all the questions. Is 15:23, so I don't know. I guess it's a good point to wrap up if we don't have any questions. Thank you for your time again. Okay, unless there's another question.